Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of AI 45 webinar, Automation in 45 Minutes. In this special episode, we talk to Asia Pacific food industry on their digitization and automation webinar. Together with Schneider Electric and Carry Group, Mr. Wallace, our Logistics Solutions Director, share what the cold chain logistics situation in Asia Pacific is like and the type of solutions you can adapt to adjust to the market situation. You can watch the full webinar from APFI in the link below. For now, enjoy this segment featuring SSI Schaefer in the AI 45 webinar special.
Prior to 2020, as an F&B tech editor, I noticed that there was a hesitance amongst manufacturers to adopt automation within the region. This is perhaps due to cost. However, after 2020, or perhaps over the past 1 year, there's been sort of a mad scramble to invest in digitalization and automation solutions. This is especially important within Southeast Asia that is very labor reliant. And since we can't rely on labor right now, these solutions matter the most. Today, we have Wallace. Wallace is the Regional Director for SSI Schaefer. He will talk us through cold chain solutions. Wallace, please.
Thank you, Charlie, for the introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Wallace. I'm from SSI Schaefer. Today, I'm happy and glad to able to participate in this event to share with you our knowledge on the cold chain industry for today's so-called environment. Right. So, without further ado, let me just put up my slides. Give me a second. Good. I hope you have seen my my screen at this moment. All right. So today I have 3 topics to share that with you. Fundamentally, let me just put it up. Okay. So I think let's probably start off with. I would like to start off with consumer choice. Right. What is the consumer choice today? You and I typically, and of course, then how does it translate to consumer choice to the industry challenge that we have today? What are the challenges that I'll share that with you? But how do we address the challenges? And that brings me to my 3rd topic in the agenda is how does SSI Schaefer addresses, and as an example, I use cold chain as an example on how do we address, provide solution into that. Now, coming to the so-called the reality of consumer expectation. I like to play with these pyramids over here. I have 3 so-called choice, right? Good, fast, and cheap. As a consumer, if I ask you to pick 2 when you buy a specific product, what do you do? For me, I would like something that's fast, and something that is good, and something that is cheap. I want to choose all, but hey, in reality, I think it is still possible or not possible. Now let's discuss this. So if I put it up, in essence, if I say I want you to choose 2, you realize that it can never equate 2 into the other one. For example, cheap and good, it cannot be fast, right? Good and fast also cannot be cheap, and fast and cheap cannot be good. So then I bring it to the 3 circle. Now what does that mean? If I put it in this cluster over here, choosing from fast and good, it literally link up to be a product that is very expensive. Or we say we want a product that is good and cheap. Chances are you'll take time, right? So the manufacturer needs to spend time to mold it and make sure that products are produced properly. And of course, if I say I want something that's fast and cheap, often than not, people say, I question the quality. Can the quality be good, right? And of course, somewhere in the middle here, people will say, hey, there's no way you can have something that is all 3 of them comes together, right? So that leads me to the next slide. Now, at the center part, can it be achievable, right? Now, in the SSI perspective, yes, it's definitely achievable, but there must be a balancing act. But of course, apart from balancing act, our solution, our approach to our customer revolves around the simple, flexible, and cost-effective. Right? That means to say, we find a solution that fits your need. We find a solution that fits what your customer required you to do or require you to deliver. Now, this is how we help our customer to, or enable our customer to be successful. Now, then I bring me to the challenges, right? So here, I put the whole spectrum, or maybe not entire spectrum, but some of the spectrum of the challenges that the industry would face today, the challenges. Now, for example, in a supply chain perspective, right? You and I, we hear so much about supply chain, from the very raw material to the finished product, how this being pieced together, manufactured, and then delivered timely, and then to the manufacturer, and manufacturer put them together. And then, of course, they have to, the finished products, when customer order, how do they actually bring this product to a distribution channel and able to be delivered to you correctly and timely. Now, this whole supply chain per se, people talk about challenges in transparency. I think sometimes you buy a certain product, you say, hey, where is my product right now? I think actually it's a very interesting thing when I was early on as a practitioner in the logistic industry. You know, you and I, we go to Taobao, for example, we go to Lazada, Shopee in our environment, or Amazon. You buy a certain product, a book, or maybe maybe a tablet cover. You can literally track exactly where this product is going, from with the dispatch to the so-called to the distribution channel, on ship or on plane, and deliver to where we are on another distribution channel before it reaches us. You can track this parcel. But as a practitioner, I handle a lot of containers, but this container, unfortunately, sometimes it's difficult to track. So this is actually irony that some of the challenges that industry is having today. How do we track all these products? Then, of course, cost is one aspect as well. And then having the right manpower to do the right thing in this supply chain, to be able to do the so-called to bring the correct products to you. Now, all of these challenges, how does Schaefer looks at it for our customer, especially the coaching industry? Yeah. So I highlight this yellow box over here. In the cold chain industry today, there's a lot of regulation. And of course, it requires not only cold chain, of course, in specific cold chain again, skilled workers. And how do we ensure that the environment is operated correctly and efficiently? Now, all of this, as you know, it's not about the automation, it's not about innovation to put behind that. It's about the information, the data collected. How do you channel an order to a distribution environment? How does he able to bring this order to the person receiving, scanning the barcode, picking the right product, and bring it to put it into the right truck and deliver it to you? This information is becoming very important, and information leads to the e-commerce industry that you and I are exposing today, especially in this pandemic situation, right? So these are typically the challenges. Now, SSI actually embraces all these so-called challenges and help our customers address them. Our solution, our innovation, improve energy consumption. Of course, it also improved the operation safety on the ground, ensuring that people on the ground can work safely, come to work safely, and go back safely. And of course, we adopt international standards to make sure that of course, to address some of the very tough regulation that we are facing today. And not only that, by providing our solution also helps our customers workers to upskill themselves. Apart from simple packaging, for example, they learn how to operate a machine. They learn how to operate a warehouse, right? And then, of course, we mentioned about, the three circle, the fast, cheap, and good circle, and somewhere at the center. How can we balance it? And how can we embrace our solution with together with the e-commerce? And of course, with all of this information become a critical path. That means to say we include our IT solution as well as part of our solution, part of our so-called entire material handling solution. And of course, with all of this, none other than improve the operation efficiency eventually for you. Now, specifically on cold chain, what do we do? What kind of solution can we provide to our customers? Now, before we provide the solution to our customers, there's always a context about understanding where their challenges are, understanding where their problems are, understanding who are their customers and how do they want to serve their customers. Now, just now I mentioned about the increasing regulation on employee working in cold temperature zone. Now imagine that you and I, you, for example, or myself, we expose ourselves to a minus 24, 25 degrees when we go for holidays, right? We will be so-called wanting to, once we expose ourselves, maybe an hour out in the open, we wanted to go into the house, into a covered area to have a nice hot coffee. But these workers are going to operate in that harsh environment for 8 hours per day. Now, how can we help the customers to overcome this kind of so-called challenges that encourages the people to able to work in this environment? And that leads me to the so-called limited labor pool, able to work in such a so-called harsh environment. Now, there are also, for example, imagine you have a cold store and it's like a big, huge refrigerator behind you. Now, then of course, energy become an issue. How can you so-called able to manage the energy and so that you don't have wastage? Then of course, customer of all this is, eventually leads to the cost. Now, how can I have an effective design so that I do not have to invest so much, but still have the same output? Then of course, the efficient material flow through temperature zones. Now, for conventional warehouse or for all operators, customers usually receive the products in frozen, but not entirely frozen, probably in the temperature of minus 15. But of course, to keep the integrity of the product, they need to put it in minus 25. So from minus 15 to minus 25, there's already a temperature zone difference. So can you imagine if I cannot handle the products properly at the receiving stage? My warehouse could be about minus 5 or maybe 10 degrees or maybe 15 degrees. Then, of course, the product is being compromised. So how do I effectively design a flow to make sure that my product are not overly exposed to different temperature zones? And how do I design, for example, my building design? How can I piece them together? So these are some of the things that they also look at. And last but not least, what kind of mechanism, what kind of automation, what kind of innovation should I introduce to my environment or my operation? So these are typical so-called questions that our customers ask themselves when they want to design a cold storage environment. Now, what does SSI got to offer? Now, of course, SSI has been in the industry for 80 over years. We started from racking specialists to today we are providing intra-logistics solution. Now, let me explain from left to right, a clockwise movement, starting from selective racking. This is where SSI started. Therefore, can you imagine, 80 over years, we definitely have the expertise know-how. And if you look at this just simple steel structure, this steel structure actually means a lot for small operators, for example, when they just want to build a small cold store environment, especially if you're e-commerce, we call that the last mile delivery. This last mile delivery, let's say for example, they want to have a hubbing or staging area. They will probably build a small little warehouse like this with conventional storage, able to help them to piece pick. That's why it's called selective, right? Solution. Very economical solution, very fast, easy to implement. And then of course, if you're talking about a larger player, whereby they carry homogeneous products, like chicken, for example, they come in bulk in container form, and therefore they are product of the same kind, then selectivity become a secondary so-called requirement for them. So what they do, they want to put all the products together. Now, as you may know, if you cluster the products close to one another, actually you save energies as well. So what we do is that we have this what we call a manual channel storage. We can stack according to the warehouse height all the way up to 6-8 meters, right? And then we have this cart that's traveling in, bringing this product and store at the end of the channel and retrieve, pick another one, and just keep on going. Stack, right? You don't stack one on top of each other because they sit on the racks. Okay, so this is a typical identical solution like a drive-in racks that you can see in one. But this do not require the person to drive the racks into this channel over here, but they actually deposit this pallet onto this car and let the car drive in. This is improving safety. The other way is that they say, okay, hey, look, I not so much a homogeneous solution that I have, but I still want to have a so-called a level of selective solution. Then we will call potentially a mobile solution. Mobile solution is racks installed on a mobile base that is movable. It's open sesame, closed sesame. So imagine in this so-called rack over here, if I want to go in between 24, this between 24 here, you press a button, the aisle actually opens up, and then the truck drives in, pick it up, and then it closes back again. Excellent, dense storage, and still have a certain degree of selectivity of the products you want to pick. Then customer may come to me and say, hey, Wallace, I have land constraint, but height-wise, just as Singapore, you build HDB flats, go all the way high up, right? I don't have height constraint. What kind of height can I build? I'll say, okay, in a smaller footprint, I can build all the way to 40 meters. And then, of course, putting products on racks, and then storage and retrieval all by automated crane system. This automated cranes is much known about what we call automated storage and retrieval system. Right? So these are robotic cranes that you key in a computer, it goes into the aisles, pick the products from the racks and bring it down to where you are. So you no longer need to drive a forklift to go and pick the products. Now, all these racks, if you go down, is embraced by what we call a rack support, can be embraced by a rack supported building. Now, instead of building a shelter, if I can imagine I have land constraint already, I will build 40 meters. Can you imagine the column is going to be at least maybe 1.5 by 2 meters kind of column size? It's going to block the entire footprint for you to be able to put racks to store the products. So this rack plate takes away all these columns, have the steel structure all the way up, insulation panels, and then covered with the shelter on top. And then it maximizes footprint as much as possible. Okay, so this is a rack supporting building that we can provide for a cold store environment. And of course, instead of people going into the environment, freezing 24 degrees, now we bring the product out to you. We call it goods to person, so that the person does not expose to harsh environment. Now, maybe your question is, hey, Wallace, you mentioned about products to move between temperatures is going to compromise the product. So what if, let's say, I want to keep the temperature constant and able to do some picking and stacking? Well, we go with what we call a robotic palletizing or robotic placing and picking kind of solution. So we just have mechanic operating inside, and the operator, which is one of your co-workers or workers, sitting in a so-called protected environment, sitting comfortably in front of his PC, overlooking how the system works, right? So robotics, of course, also an excellent solution for repetitive works. So can you imagine day in and day out, you're stacking, so-called carrying one cartons, putting on the pallets, repeatedly for maybe 20 or 30 times in an hour. So all this can be mechanized. Replace it by a robot, and then bring this person out somewhere else to expose him with something more so-called savvy kind of work. Then over here, I've been talking about pallets. Customer may come to me, hey, what about I want to handle cartons or smaller cartons? Can you put in totes? The answer is yes. We have also innovation like this. We call the Flexi solution that handles products in a smaller packing form. So these are some good examples of what we can provide to our customers. But what about, hey, you mentioned about between temperature zone, how do you protect the products, for example. Now over here, you can see that this is the cold chain know-how, right? Use airlocks between temperature zone, right? This is to provide, prevent product damage. You see over here, -25, it's all mechanized. No human being operating here. But at the loading unloading area, you have people driving forklift around at 4 degrees Celsius. That's harsh. This is actually helping our customers to be more efficient on the ground. Right, of course, now, what I just demonstrate to you is that we want to enable our customers to achieve better performance. Automation, reduce turnaround time, all right? We have automated cranes that bring products within seconds. We make sure that the products are constantly kept in a so-called temperature that they should be, and not on other places. And therefore, human being, of course, also works in a temperature that they are comfortable with. Instead of going hot, cold, they be turning sickness as well. And with that, then of course you have different challenges. And the manpower and productivity is, again, that helps a lot in terms of we remove a lot of mundane operation, upskilling our workers, as I mentioned. And most importantly is we reduce product damages and making sure that the food quality of the product is maintained and food safety is always there. So, in this context over here, the intralogistic in the cold chain industry, Shaver does have an in-depth knowledge. We have installed many of this kind of facility. We'll be happy to share with you, happy to also some of these many success story that we have, and then we can provide to you the solution if you intend to build one of these so-called special facility. Now, apart from cold chain, I just want to touch base on our other industries, 6 specific industry. Cold chain to us actually belongs to what we call food and beverage industry. Other than that, we have retail wholesale, fashion, healthcare, cosmetic, industry, especially on the manufacturing environment and food retail. Now, why do we split into 6 market sectors? Because we have specialized people working on these different market sectors. This is important because we need to understand the customer requirement. We need to understand the customer requirement in order to provide to you the intralogistics solution that fits your need. So, last but not least, probably I want to share with you with the Global Green Incentive, of course, to promote sustainability and climate action, for example. Actually, SSI did participate actively to develop embrace, of course, intralogistics solution to be sustainable, to protect our planet and minimize the impact as well. So, yes, this is one initiative that embraces, and of course, our solution embraces that on the same. With that, thank you very much.
All right, Wallace, thank you so much. I have a question here for you, and I think it's an interesting one. The question is, how can SSI Schaefer's products benefit clients invested in E or Q commerce?
Thank you, Charlie. I think it's a very interesting question indeed. Well, I think the e-commerce and now Q-commerce, right? A lot of people is asking maybe say what are the differences? Maybe I start with the first generation of we call that commerce. The commerce is none other than how would I say? You sell service, you buy your own products. Of course, you find the product availability, and then you drive the car, you pick it up from the grocery store, right? Then the e-commerce is none other than you expect you can buy products already from all over the world, right? I mean, you can buy from China, you can buy from Vietnam, for example, and then you have a consolidator that takes your order and then brings the order to you. Then, of course, not only that, e-commerce per se is you potentially buy a little bit in bulk, a little bit of consolidated of orders, so that you bring the products to your doorstep. The Q-commerce, i.e., we call it quick commerce, right? Quick commerce, time to market. So for the manufacturer point of view, right? Q-commerce, you want to be quick, right? So meaning to say, it's like pizza, right? You order pizza, it delivers to you in 2 hours time. So these are quick commerce kind of stuff. Now, your question about how does Schaefer helps some of our clients to be in this so-called platform. Now, as I mentioned to you again, or maybe shared earlier on in my presentation, we have a lot of innovation. We have a lot of so-called solution able to table and provide to our client. Often or not, the first question to our customers is that we always want to know what industry are they serving. For example, if you talk about general retail and wholesale, right? So that is very straightforward. On the back end, on the stream, on the distribution facility itself, we want to make sure that the products are being stored in the correct places, pick within a given timeline, and able to sort within a given timeline, and sort to the correct so-called destination, and then put in the correct delivery truck and deliver to you. Now, this is the so-called the downstream of the supply chain of the facility, a distribution channel. Now, this is what Schaefer can do. So information being captured on the order placement to the putting the product on dispatch trucks to the customer. This solution per se, we will actually embrace that a lot. Therefore, I talk about robotics, talk about conveyors, I talk about sorting system, I talk about the so-called the ASRS system. These are some examples that we can put together. But the most important gist of it is that at the end of the day, the solution is driven by your business. How do we put the right mechanics? How do we put the right automation to serve your need? I hope I answered the question.
Certainly. Thank you, Wallace.